What was your epiphany moment that it was time to break up with your partner? I'll go first. My ex-husband and I had been in couples therapy for many months, and at our very last appointment, the therapist looked at my husband and said, "Do you think she needs to be on more antidepressants?" And I was on Zoloft at the time. And he nodded yes. And she turned to me and said, "Maybe you need to up your dose." And that was the moment where I realized that if I need to be on more drugs to stay in this relationship, then it's not the one for me. What was your epiphany moment that it was time to break up with your partner?
Mine was when I had my daughter and she was 8 weeks old, and it was about 7 a.m. and we were sleeping, and she was a cluster feeder, so I was up all night feeding her. And he wanted to work out in my bedroom. I had a 4-bedroom house that I paid for. There were so many places to work out, so I asked, "Hey, can you work out in a different room and not blare music in here while me and the baby are sleeping?" And he said, "No, why don't you just move to the couch?" And I said, "That's weird." And he threw a whole fit, threw my fan across the room, started calling me all these names, and said if maybe I got my lazy fat whale ass up, I wouldn't look the way I do. And then told me to shut the fuck up. And so then I did shut the fuck up, and then he yelled at me for shutting the fuck up, and then he came over and punched me in the face and started choking me and then ripped my baby from my arms. And that was, yeah, that was the epiphany moment. I had to decide, if I don't leave, either myself or my daughter will be dead. So I left.
What was your epiphany moment that it was time to break up with your partner?
I was in an abusive relationship and I could never find the strength to leave, primarily because low self-worth, but eventually I did find the strength. I've been caregiving for my mom, who was on hospice for a few years, and she passed away about 5 months ago. But about 4 days before she passed, she was in and out of consciousness, not fully comprehensive. But she was holding my hand one day and she looked me square in the eyes and she said, "Are you safe?" And she asked me, "Before I go, I just want to make sure that you're going to be okay. Are you safe? Are you okay?" And she passed about 4 days later. And on the same day that she passed, I decided to file a restraining order and I never looked back. So sometimes we need external validation or confirmation in order to make those necessary steps that we always knew deep down inside that we needed to take. So if you are looking for confirmation, if you are looking for validation, if you need a sign to choose you, to choose your safety, this is it. That day, I lost my mom, but I gained a whole new perspective on generational healing, on intentional healing, and I chose me. So please be safe and start intentionally healing because you deserve it.
What was your epiphany moment that it was time to break up with your partner?
Oh, I got a good one. So this wasn't the deciding factor, but this is the moment I knew that if I didn't get out within the next 24 to 48 hours, something bad was going to happen. So a little backstory, he was a huge gamer. He only worked because I forced him to, and he would basically never go outside, never do anything that didn't involve sitting inside and playing video games. And then one day, he comes up to me and he goes, "We should go on a hike." And I was like, "You want to go on a hike?" And he's like, "Yeah, I've been looking at trails up by Butterfield Canyon or somewhere like where not a lot of people go." And I was like, "Uh-huh." And he's like, "Yeah, it'd be so much fun for just you and I to go on a hike, and we can leave our daughter at my mom's house," which he never liked to do. He would never get a babysitter for date nights or anything, any reason other than us having to go to work. And in that moment, I knew he was plotting to kill me. He was going to push me off of a cliff and say that it was an accident because he was abusive before, and he told me that if I ever left him, that he would kill me and my daughter. And I just knew. I knew he knew that I was going to leave and he was going to kill me.
What was your epiphany moment that it was time to break up with your
I
partner?
have been dying to stitch this, but I have a different kind of spin on this because instead of a partner, I'll be talking about my parents. Mind you, I am 26 years old. It wasn't until I was 24 that I just completely cut them off. So I'll set the scene for you. I was in the hospital with my son, and he was in the ICU on life support. So my mom and I had an off and on again relationship, and at that time, I told her, hey, I really do need help. I need you to come out. And what she expected was to be at the hospital with Keegan. But what I needed her for was to stay at home with my 3 dogs that had been sitting at home alone for over a month while we've been admitted to the hospital and in the ICU fighting for Keegan's life. My mom did take off time from work. And when I confronted her a couple of days before she was supposed to come, I said, hey, I don't want you to see Keegan like this. I need you to just stay with my dogs and we can talk about you coming to the hospital when I'm ready. She didn't like that. So she said, I'm sorry, I can't take off time from work and come watch your dogs, because that's all she heard. A few days later, Keegan was a couple hours away from going into surgery, okay? This lady texts me while I'm in the ICU fighting for my child's life. He's going into surgery, and she knows all of this. She thinks I got her fired from her job, when in fact she got herself fired from her own job. But that was just, I was so fucking done at that point. In absolute heartbreak and absolute disbelief, I called my dad, who is merely an hour away from me, and I said, I left a message for him. That's what I did. I left a message for him and I said, hey, Keegan's in the hospital and I could really use your support. He called me back later that night, and he told me, if you think I'm gonna come sit in the hospital with you and your son, forget about it. You've hurt me so bad, he said. So, yeah. So that was my epiphany moment. I did the hardest thing I could ever do as a parent without my own parents. And that's when I knew. They're no good for you, honey. They are never gonna be the parents that you need. Even if it's hard, I'm gonna do it by myself. I promised myself that.